All right, it's 2 minutes after. I think that's our grace period. Let's go ahead and start. Welcome, everyone. This is Lance Loveday. I'm the CEO here at Closed Loop, and I'm very excited to be presenting this webinar and bringing in my friend Marty Greif to speak to you. By way of background on me and Closed Loop is a digital advertising agency. We work with high growth and higher spend digital advertisers to help them maximize the return from digital advertising. And as part of that work, we often get asked, hey, how do we keep going? How do we take the next step? You know, and there's a lot of things obviously we can do from a campaign perspective, but there's so much that can be done from a post-click optimization perspective. And there's just so much strategy and thought that can be brought to bear about how you qualitatively improve your campaign performance and improve, yes, your conversion rates, but really, I think about widening the funnel from top to bottom. And I'm really thrilled to have an expert on that topic speaking to us today. Marty Greif, as I mentioned, is an old friend of mine. He is the CEO of Site Tuners, and he's been in the space for, I think, even longer than I have. I've known Marty for years. I've spoken with him at various events at times, and it's always just been such a pleasure. I think the true mark of a professional is when they do hard things and make it look easy and effortless. And Marty absolutely is a professional. I've enjoyed hearing him speak, and the insights that he brings to the table about user experience, about conversion rate optimization, and about marketing in general. And the topic that he's going to speak to today, true connections, relationship marketing in a digital world, I don't know that it could be much more timely than that. So with that, Marty, thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Lance, and thank you for that that wonderful introduction. So let me share with everyone here. We have partnered with Closed Loop and Lance Company multiple times. You know, we are a conversion rate optimization agency, so what we do is different from what Lance's company does. And with that in mind, we've brought Lance a number of our clients just because if we need somebody who knows to truly how to drive traffic and do it correctly, we basically think of Lance. And so that being said, let's talk about true connections and relationship marketing in digital world, which interestingly enough is not only the title of this presentation, it's actually the title of my book. And this book just came out. There'll be a link at the end if you're interested in getting a copy. It's just started going into distribution. I have the first proof copy on my desk as we speak right now, and I just got it about a week ago. So it's just going into production as we speak. And again, the topic here is true connections. So if you would like to connect with me, you can send me an email or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Be more than happy to connect with folks. So let's just dive into the basics. And I'm going to ask you all a question. And this is one of those rhetorical questions that I want you to consider for a second. Okay. Are you selfish? And that's kind of an obnoxious question if you think about it. Are you selfish? And take a second, and you're probably thinking, no, you're not selfish, right? But here's the reality. Everybody's selfish. I hate to say it, we're driven by instinct to fill our own needs. We are literally animals, okay? And it's all about that fight to survive. And because we were animals, that fight to survive has translated even into modern day. So how do I prove that we're selfish? You've certainly met people who love to talk about themselves, and we're bad listeners. And I know everybody in this meeting, every single one of you has met people, and then you've forgotten their name within 30 seconds. You can't help it, all right? And you forget their faces. We all do it. We're at a conference, we're at a party, we get introduced to somebody, you know, and then we go, was his name Lance or was it Larry? Now, I won't forget Lance's name, so we're good. But my point being, this is something we all do. And it's because we're self-absorbed. And let's be realistic. This is human nature. Okay. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. Uh, it's just how we're wired. We are wired to survive. And if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the 100,000 years ago, we were worried about the physical, the need for air, food, water, rest, health, right? Security and safety and shelter. Well, as civilization has progressed, we're getting higher and higher up, in the period. Now, in the pyramid, obviously that's not true for everybody, and there's a lot of poverty in the world and so on. But even when we get to the top of the pyramid, and we're talking about self actualization, or ego, anything towards the top, I'm going to tell you we are still selfish. So let me give you some examples of what seems like it's selfless, but it's actually selfish. Why do people donate to a charity, right? Do they donate because they want to do something good? Well, yeah, that's part of it. But they actually donate to a charity because it makes them feel good. It assuages some guilt, or it makes them feel good. Soldiers risking their lives. Well, why did they do that? They do it for the greater good, obviously, but they have this calling. It's something that they feel called to do, and it gives them. It's not pleasure, but it's that feeling of self-worth, that satisfaction. All right, a teacher making sure their students do well. All right, why? Well, when their students do well, do they make any more money, or probably not? But it sure makes them feel good when their students do well. So they're at the top part of the pyramid. A scientist working on an invention, because they need that, they have that feeling to achieve. And if they can achieve something, they feel good about achieving it. So, as odd as this sounds, we are all animals, and we are all selfish, regardless of whether we're struggling to survive or we're struggling to achieve self-actualization. At some level, it comes back to, how does it make how does it make us feel? So let's bring this back to our topic at hand today. Digital marketers are selfish. And here's the thing, they don't know it, or they maybe haven't accepted it. But if you look at a lot of digital marketing with a critical eye, a lot of digital marketing is selfish in nature. So here's the thing, and I assume everybody on this call is a digital marketer in some way, shape, or form. You're not bad people. Well, you're not bad people because you're a digital marketer. I don't know all of you, so who knows, right? But here's the I'm joking, but here's what really makes us selfish. We forget about the visitor, and we are consumed with our own marketing ideas, and we're consumed with the strategy, and we try something, and it works, and we're trying to get the best results possible out of a marketing campaign. So we're looking at statistics and analytics and all sorts of things to figure out, how do we get more and more and more. Okay. So how do we know that we're being selfish? A wonderful example is gated content, all right, with very long and irrelevant form fields. And we're going to give an example of that a little bit later on. Or too much content on the website. How often have you had somebody in your organization say about your website, well, we need to tell them about this, and we need to tell them about that, and we need to tell them, no, you don't, okay? You need to tell people what they need to make a decision on your website. You don't need to do what I call, the opera singer, where we're going, me, 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 me. It's all about me. Nobody cares about you. Okay. They care about themselves, and they want you to answer their specific questions or address their problem. So what do websites do? They focus on their products and their services, and about what the company wants to sell more of, and not about what the visitor wants. And then they get in the way with all sorts of upsells and cross sells, and the visitor's just trying to get something done, and we're constantly throwing things in their way. And I would argue or suggest that if you solve the visitor's needs and you put their needs first, you will actually get more rewards for your marketing programs. So let me just net this out for you. It is not about you, it's about the visitor. Okay. It really isn't about you, it's about the visitor. And if you make it about the visitor, then it is a win for everybody. And this next slide in the deck is the most important slide in the entire deck. All right. So I've set that up. You're all going, all right, what's this? And it's a simple chart. So why is this the most important slide? If you align user intent with their experience they have with you and your goals as a company, in the intersection of that, that's where true connections are. That's where the money is. That's where the sales come in. That's where the subscriptions come in. That's where the lead flow comes in. Whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, that's where it all works. So why do you have to have all three? Most companies focus on their goals and they forget about the experience. All right. If you focus on all three of these, that will allow you to solve the problem for the visitor. They have a good experience with your organization, and it's leaning towards something you want them to do. So let me give you a ridiculous example. I mean, a completely ridiculous example. You could provide a wonderful experience for your clients, and you could advertise something that says, free iPad with every purchase of groceries. Okay. I mean, that's crazy, right? And you give away a free iPad. That probably is not matching your company goals. You probably get a lot of people coming to get a free iPad, but if you're a grocery provider, that may or may not work for you unless you're doing some kind of weird subscription that you're locking them into. The point is you can satisfy user intent and you can give someone a great experience, but if it doesn't align with your company goals, then it's a complete waste of your time and effort. And so the reverse is true. If you're all about fill out this form, stop, buy now, and you're basically in somebody's face, you're obviously giving them a bad experience. You're probably not matching the user intent. The three things have to align. So with that in mind, let's talk about what happens in person. I'm going to go back to how we interact as people or as animals, if we think about it. And then I'm going to bring this back to the website. So 3 critical questions. This is what happens when you meet somebody at a party or at a conference or wherever. You ask yourselves, do I want to talk to this person? Do I trust this person? And do I want to continue this conversation? This is what happens, in nanoseconds, right? It's really quick. And how do we get there? Well, do I want to talk to this person? Did they get introduced? Did they get a good name? Do I trust this person? Are they friendly? What's their appearance? Do I feel safe, right? Or does this person look like they're going to beat me up or steal from me? I mean, I'm exaggerating. We're talking about meeting someone at a conference, right? Or wherever it is, but these things matter. And do I want to continue the discussion? Are they informative? Are they interesting? Or are they talking all about themselves? Right? Or are they just blathering on? I mean, you've all probably been in a conversation where you think, oh my God, I got to get away from this person. Oh my God, won't this person shut up? Right? I know that sounds harsh, but you've all probably been there. Well, as odd as it sounds, these kind of concepts that are in person apply when somebody goes to a website. So how do you apply these 3 same concepts to your website? And how do you make a true connection with your visitor? Well, here are the 3 questions, the versions of the 3 questions for your website. When somebody lands on a web page, they ask themselves, am I in the right place? How do I feel about this site or this page? And what am I supposed to do here, right? It's really straightforward. And I'm going to walk you through each one of these in some level of detail to illustrate the right way and wrong way to answer those questions. So let's start with, am I in the right place? So the am I in the right place question really applies to not just your page, but also the upstream messaging. So whatever the upstream messaging is has a direct impact on, am I in the right place? So maybe it was an ad, or maybe it was a social media post, or even within a page in a website. If I go from one page to another, I'm going to ask, am I in the right place? Did the upstream messaging prepare me correctly for the page that I'm on? Did it match that visitor intent and expectations? Or are you making me think? And I will tell you, one of my favorite mantras is, don't make me think. So let's show an example of, of a brand, Progressive Insurance. They're a brand. Now, brands can get away with things that non-brands can't. But here's what the Google query was: New York homeowners insurance quote. And then look at the ad, Progressive Home Insurance, quote homeowners online today, www.progressive.com, ratings for Progressive, protect your home possessions at affordable, see how much you can save today. And then you go to the page, you see Flow. I don't know if you're all in the United States or not, but Progressive, if you're not, Progressive is a major brand, advertises. Flow is their spokesperson. So this is familiar to people. But here's the problem with this, okay? I don't know that they cover insurance in New York because they didn't tell me that they cover insurance in New York. And you might say, well, of course they do. They're a big brand. But I will tell you that I've had multiple experiences where I've typed in for all sorts of services, like satellite or cable TV, and it's nationally advertised. And so I go to the web page, and then it asks me for the zip code, just like this page is, and it comes back and says, we're sorry, we don't service your area. Really? Then why the heck did you have a PPC ad up front? And because you know where I am, all right? You can do, geographic, targeting. Why are you showing me an ad for something I can't buy, which is frankly nuts. So with that in mind, let me show you the right way to do this. And again, Progressive is a brand, so they get away with more. So here's Coastal Insurance. This is a client of ours, same exact query, but look at what they got back as an ad. Compare top 10 home insurance, best New York, NY home quote minutes. And then the URL was coastalinsurancesolution.com, New York home insurance, okay? And then compare the top 10 quotes, New York insurance companies, and then look at the page, right? New York homeowners insurance. So here's the question. I typed in New York homeowners insurance quote. Am I in the right place? Right? You're not making me think here. I'm automatically in the right place. And when we did this for the client, it increased their lead flow by 86%. Don't make your visitors think. When they land on the page, or if it's within page to page within your website, make it painfully clear that you're answering the question, yes, you are in the right place. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. Next question in the process here. How do I feel about this site? So, all right, am I in the right place? Yes, I'm in the right place. How do I feel about this? Well, you know what? A modern design certainly boosts credibility. Then there's all sorts of security seals, social proof, things that build trust, make me feel safe, make me feel like I can do business with you. So let's take a look at the wrong way to do this. It turns out, and I didn't know this, by the way, that gas grills could be literally thousands of dollars. I mean, here's a gas grill, Weber Summit E470 for almost $2,000. All right. And this tells you a lot about me. Maybe I have a gas grill. I got it from Lowe's. It was probably, $300-400. I didn't know gas grills got this expensive. So who knew? But it turns out they can literally be $5,000 or $10,000. Here's an example for almost $2,000. And yeah, it's kind of a modern design, but if you don't know who Academy Sports and Outdoors is, how would you feel about this site? Is there any trust on here? The only thing that's even remotely trusty is they got a green checkbox in the middle that says in stock online. That's it. And they expect me to put my credit card in this site, not knowing anything about them, for $2,000. So how do I feel about this site? I feel okay about it, but I don't feel great about it. But what if I landed on a competitor of theirs for the same exact grill? Same exact grill. Same exact price. But look at what they've got there. They've got a phone number in the top right-hand corner. And a phone number is the largest trust symbol on the face of the planet. So there's their phone number. Look at all these trust symbols: Inc. 5000, Better Business, 100% protected. They've got reviews on here, right? They've made their free shipping green next to this, in stock, only 5 left. So they've got some of the same words that the other one has, but which one are you going to feel good about? So when you ask the question, how do I feel about this site? Well, I feel a lot more comfortable giving these people $2,000 of my hard-earned dollars than I did this other company, because they've got a well-executed design and they've got tons of social proof and security seals, right? I mean, think about that. When somebody lands on your web pages, how do they feel about your site? Do they feel safe? Do they feel like you're a real company? Or are you a little bit more like, the other site where you're just hoping for the best? So you got to make someone feel safe and secure on your website. So the third question they ask, because let's say we got past, am I in the right place? I was looking for a Weber Summit E470. How do I feel about it? I feel pretty good. What am I supposed to do here? That's the next question. So on the what am I supposed to do here question, what you want to do is use visual emphasis to basically guide the user to what we call an information scent or an information trailhead. Make it really easy for me to know what it is I'm supposed to do, with clear calls to action and clear visual navigation. So with that in mind, let me give you an example. This is the before image for someone we worked with in Australia. And you'll notice on here that apparently what's hot is important to them. And they sell, and I'm probably not pronouncing this right, Le Creuset? I'm guessing Le Creuset. Lance, do you cook? Do you have any idea how to pronounce that?
Go with the French. I'd say Le Creuset, but I wouldn't guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll go with Le Creuset here. And then we got the knives here, Shop Kasumi Knives. Again, not sure how you pronounce that either, but whatever. So yeah, they've got a nav bar. They've got some symbols up here where it says secure ordering, price match, but you're making me hunt on on your website to figure out where I'm supposed to go and what am I supposed to do here. Let's compare that to the after image for the same site. And so now what we've done is we've created category level images on here, and these are sorted by basically volume and profitability, okay? And you'll notice in these categories of bakeware, cookware, and glassware, we have multiple images in here. So let's go with the bakeware category. We've tested this time and time again. If in bakeware you only showed one image, it is absolutely astonishing how people will look at your one image and go, oh, this is the only kind of bakeware they sell, or they only sell stemless wine glasses, or they only sell, I don't know, frying pans. I mean, I know that's crazy. I get it that it's crazy, but we've tested it. Category level images absolutely drive traffic much more effectively. And below the categories, we put sub nav, okay, so that people can go directly to cake pans, loaf tins, and so on. Now, here's a couple tips for you. It turns out that people can process between 3 to 5 items. So what they're doing here is they're looking, and we've got 4 here. They're looking at bakeware. Was they interested in bakeware? No. Cookware? Yes, no. Glassware? Yes, no. Knives? Yes, that's what I came for, is knives, right? So basically what people do visually is they look at this and they're able to very quickly distinguish what they're looking for. 3 to 5 items is the set. Now, here's the thing. On this site, they can actually have multiple rows, which they do. So you could have a matrix of 5 items or 5 categories across and 5 rows deep, which would be 25 items. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm telling you, you can do that because what happens is, at least in a lot of the Romance English languages and Romance languages, we read left to right, top to bottom, right? And so we're going to look at the first row and say, is there anything in this row of my 3 to 5 things that I care about? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then I go to the second row. I go, do I care about the second row versus the first row? So I'm comparing items within the rows, or I'm comparing the rows themselves. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And so this site actually answers the question, am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? And I'm using this on the what am I supposed to do here, but let's just for a moment talk about the others. Phone number, it turns out, and we've tested this, is the largest trust symbol on the face of the planet. And the best place to put your phone number is in the top right-hand corner. Real companies have phone numbers. And I will tell you, I've had people say, well, our phone number is in the top left-hand corner. Isn't that okay? Here's the problem. If you don't see it, if somebody doesn't see it, it doesn't exist. So you want to follow conventions and put it where people are looking for it. We also added and changed this bar here. They had a bar in the previous version, but we made Australian family visit trusted by 500,000 plus visitors. And am I in the right place? This is what they do. All right. So they're in Australia, the largest range of kitchenware online, superior service delivered fast. So if I'm looking for kitchenware, I am in the right place. And how do I feel about it? I feel really good because look at all the trust that they had on here, right? And then above and beyond that, what am I supposed to do here? Guess what? They're not making me think, which really makes this so much easier. So let's just recap this real quick before we go into some specifics that you can take away today to make changes on your website. So here's the recap. Am I in the right place? These are 3 questions. You got to have yourself, ask yourself these questions when you're looking at your website. Am I in the right place? Are you matching visitor intent? Are you making your visitors think? How do I feel about the site? Is it a well-executed design? Okay. Does it have social proof, security seals? Are you building trust, basically? And what am I supposed to do here? Are you using visual navigation and clear calls to action to make this work for people? All right. So, and so I love that we got a message here from it's actually blank to all patterns. So whoever said this, marketing should be humane because we deal with humans. It's all about friendships and basically what do you put here? And marketing should call customers like God and serve them as servants. So basically what we're saying here, what he's saying here is, or she, because I don't know, he or she, basically treat people like you would like to be treated yourself and treat them like you would, hopefully in person, right? So let's apply the 3 questions now to your website, and let's do this. 4 things that you can do, 4 best practices that you can take away today to make this work, okay? And I'm going to talk about all 4 of these in detail, right? So let's start with the first one, removing rotating banner. Why? Well, it turns out motion is distracting for visitors. Rotating banners push content down. So let's talk about that. So how do you measure success? You can measure it by the bounce rate. So if you get rid of a rotating banner, we've tested this time and time again, the bounce rate will go down. You should actually wind up with more number of pages on average, should increase, and your conversion rate goes up. And you'll notice on here on the conversion rate, I talk about macro and micro conversions. A macro conversion is the end sale, the lead, the form filled out, the subscription is whatever the end goal is. A micro conversion is getting people to move through your funnel to the next step. And so there's ways to test both macro and micro conversions, because it may be that you fix something up front in your funnel, but you've got a problem midway. So you want to make sure that you're making sure that your macro conversions are gaining, but you might need to test micro conversions to find out where the drop-offs are. But a rotating banner, and we've tested this time and time again, lowers conversion rates by 10 to 15%. So here's an example of a rotating banner, all right? The problem is when things rotate here, um, two things happen. And I'm going to turn my webcam on for a second. I'm going to look like a moron, and I know that. So I'll just say it in advance. Um, so Lance, can you see me?
I gotcha.
Okay, so here's what happens when something is rotating or moving. You know, if you were to hold your fingers by your head and wiggle them, your peripheral vision would pick that up. And the problem is, again, remember we were animals, you know, or we're still animals, but we were cave people, and baked into our instincts is the idea that movement could potentially be dangerous. Like, oh my God, the bear's coming to eat me, right? And so every time something moves, what we do is, and I'm going to exaggerate, we go, what's that? What's that? What's that? And so you're interrupting the thought process for people by having those rotating banners, all right? And so what I've said here is, and we've tested this time and time again, by removing rotating banners, you absolutely can increase your conversion rate by 10 to 15%, okay? So this is what they turned it into. And now, you know, it matches the visitor intent because I'm here for either skincare, makeup, or hair, right? And it visually directs the attention. It's not making me think. It's a lot easier for somebody to be able to navigate this. And I know for those of you who have large organizations where you've got different departments who have said, well, we need to tell them about this on the homepage, or we need to tell them about that on the homepage, or we need to tell them about this. No, you don't need to tell them anything. What you need to do is you need to solve the visitor's question and address what they're doing, and then give them information trailheads on how to get to the next level. And that's where visual navigation comes in. All right, speaking of visual navigation, here's something else that absolutely positively makes a difference. So if you make it easy for people to figure out how to navigate your site, they spend more time on your site and they find what they're looking for. So, you know, how do you measure it? Again, your bounce rate should go down. Your time on page, interestingly enough, your time on page should decrease on a page that's confusing to be not confusing, because they're able to go from one page to the other a lot easier. And then again, your conversion rate should get better, both your macro or micro conversion rates. So with that in mind, here's an example of somebody we helped, and they sell basically hair care and skin care for Black skin, right? And so their market is African Americans. They sell in the US, right? But when you get here, in the old version of this, you know, is this a blog? Is this an e-commerce site? You know, what exactly is this? There's so much going on here that I don't know what they're supposed to do, right? So the next example here, or look here, is we turn that into this, and all the navigation is clear. It's a lot easier to figure out where I'm supposed to go from point A to point B, right? And so if you look at this, you know, it's no longer a mashup of all sorts of text. We get here, they've got a banner that doesn't rotate. It basically says who we are and what we do, right? They've got their phone number in the top right-hand corner. They've got a trust symbol on here. They've got trust here with as seen on. And then their visual navigation. Are you looking for body care, hair care, or face care, or are you looking for a sample kit? And oh, by the way, here is our unique selling proposition. So when I get here, this answers all the questions of, am I in the right place? How do I feel about it? And then most importantly, what is it I'm supposed to do here? There's not a lot of thought that's going to go into the what am I supposed to do here, because this design made it easy. And this design, compared to what was there before, increased their conversion rate by 277%, okay, which is rather significant. All right, let's talk about the next thing that you can do. lowering the number of form fills, I'm sorry, of form fields. Yeah, I can't talk and chew gum at the same time, luckily, I'll tell you. Uh, Actually, I'm not chewing gum, it's just a saying. But anyway, lowering the number of form fields. Why? Every additional form field increases friction, cognitive friction. The more you have on your form, the more you're making people think and the more you're potentially putting them off. So why do you lower form fields? Well, you want to, lower the abandonment rate on a page, and you want to increase the conversion rate. That's how you measure success. It's really straightforward. And I'm going to show you an old example. And I apologize in advance for this being an old example, but this is just such a great example of what not to do. Okay. And I still see people doing things like this, but I'll read this example to you. This is, and I'll, because this is the screenshot's a little old. It's the first field is first name, then spouse, then last name, then email, then home phone, then work phone, then cell phone, then best time to call, and then what state are you in, and how much debt do you have? And I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, they could have kept on and said, and where did you go to lunch, and what did you have to eat, and did it make your tummy sick, and would you recommend? I mean, it's just stop asking questions. Okay. This is like, and I always use the analogy. This is like meeting somebody in a bar, and the person comes up to you and says, "Hey, how you doing? Do you live around here? Do you make a lot of money? What do you do for a living? What kind of car do you drive?" I mean, just bombard you with questions. That's really, really creepy. And so what we tell people is don't be creepy in person and don't be creepy online. Okay? Stop being creepy, period. So we turn that same form into this, where we ask a lot less questions, and this increased the conversion rate by 51%. And again, it's got all the things. Am I in the right place? You're not making me think. We're lowering the number of fields. There's less for me to have to do. There's trust symbols on here. It makes it a lot easier for me to feel good about filling out this form. So am I in the right place? Yeah. How do I feel about it? There's trust. And what am I supposed to do here? And what am I supposed to do here is not overwhelming. So I'm going to show you one more example of form fields. And this is, you can use the chat for this, all right? And I'm showing you the before and the after. And the goal here is to get people to download a buyer's guide, right? So it's a download and it says instant download. So they're asking for first name, last name, street, city, zip, daytime phone, email address, alternate phone, all sorts of stuff, right? And we put it down to this. Here's the question. To download a buyer's guide or a PDF or whatever it is you've got that you want someone to download, how many fields, what are the minimum number of fields you need? All right. Go ahead, and if you've got an opinion of what you think somebody needs to fill in to be able to download a guide, how many fields do they need? Or what fields do you think they need? Go ahead and answer that. You didn't know there was going to be a test here today, did you, folks? All right, well, I'll make your life easy because this is a little bit of a trick question, all right? The answer is none, right? Well, Chris said one. We got a couple people saying one, right? But here's the answer. The answer is none, okay? And you might say, well, if it's none, how do you get a lead, right? Well, here's how you get a lead. If you have a really high quality piece of content for somebody to download, and in that high quality piece of content, because you're promising to instant download, you didn't say you're going to email it to them, you said you're going to download it. If in that download it's really high quality, and you say for more information, or to get the next thing, click here, and it takes them to another page, and on the other page it says, all right, fill in your email address to get X, Y, and Z. Couple things are going to happen. One is you've earned the right to ask for that because you've built trust by giving them a truly high quality piece of information. And here's the other thing that happens. You'll actually get good email addresses, because when you put in all of these other fields, I don't know about you folks, but I have a spam email address I use. I actually have a couple of them. I have an old AOL one that I use. I have a Yahoo one that I use. And so I fill out forms and I put in an email address that I'm never going to look at again. And even when it says, you need to validate your email address. Well, what do? I sign into Yahoo, I validate my email address, and then I don't go back in the Yahoo until I have to validate an email address again. So all of that drip marketing that they're doing, that they spend all that time building, I'm never going to see because I didn't care, right? But if you provide value to people, if you treat people properly and you provide value to them, guess what? You are much more likely to get a valid email address that you could drip marketing to. And that absolutely will make a difference in your overall marketing. So trust symbols in the header. And we're going to talk about trust symbols in the header versus elsewhere in a second. But why trust symbols? Well, when I land on a site, I need to feel safe because you're going to ask me for either my personal information, my name, my email. You're going to ask me to subscribe to something potentially. You're going to ask me to buy something. You're going to ask me to do something. I don't know what it is, but if there's trust symbols on there and I know that you're a real company, then I feel much more likely that I'm going to be willing to provide real information or go the next step and do the subscription for you or fill out the form correctly or potentially buy something because I feel safe. Make me feel safe, right? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So what do you see when you make someone feel safe? Well, you should see that when you have trust symbols that their bounce rate, your bounce rate should decrease, okay? And your time on site should increase because they're going to spend more time with you now because they feel safe. I keep saying they feel safe. That's really important. And your conversion rate should go up. Both your macro and your micro conversion rates should go up because they feel safe. All right. Trust symbols are really important. So let me show you a before and after. So this is basically a weight loss pill, all right? And so talk about something that requires some kind of trust symbol. If this isn't a candidate for trust symbols, I don't know what would be. But this is an older looking design, you know, there's no security seals. You're making me think. It's not a well executed design. You know, they've got no real visual emphasis to the right thing other than to watch a video here, you know, and the navigation's not that great, all right? But back to trust symbols. Well, it turns out that they do have some trust symbols on here. As odd as it sounds, and as stupid as this is going to sound, and forgive me for this, but the language up here with the symbols, with the flags, believe it or not, because we've tested flags, that can be perceived as a trust symbol. And so is the logos of credit cards can be perceived as trust symbols. But I will tell you that this on the top and this here on the bottom is nowhere near enough for trust symbols, not even close. So that turned into this, okay? And so let's look at, I'm going to show you a couple things. This is, you know, am I in the right place, right? I'm looking to lose weight. That was the upstream messaging. How do I feel about it? Well, there's lots of trust on here. And what am I supposed to do here? I mean, order my supply, right? Or order now, right? They've made this really simple. This follows the 3 questions, right? But let's talk about trust symbols in the header because I made a point of in the header, right? So why in the header? Well, the reason why in the header, unless you're driving PPC to a specific page, if you've got people who potentially were sharing God knows what content you have on social media, or people were doing search and you came up in the SERPs SEO ranking somewhere, you have no idea what page they're going to land on, right? They could land almost on any page in your website, again, unless you're driving them to very specific pages. So by having trust symbols up in the header, no matter what page I land on, I'm going to see those trust symbols. So that way you're making sure that you're putting your best foot forward on every single page. Hopefully that makes a ton of sense. Now the other reason that I show this example, because I think this is absolutely brilliant, is look at those trust symbols in the top, right? They've got a thumbs up with 233,075 plus customers. Quality guaranteed, formulated in the USA with a little USA symbol there, and a phone with call us. They made those trust symbols up right? Those aren't like Norton symbols or McAfee symbols or an SSL or a Better Business Bureau or I mean, you pick it. I don't, they made them up, okay? And I will tell you, without going into a lot of detail, having that dramatically increase the conversion rate. That actually works, all right? Trust symbols in the header. And again, I can't stress it. They made them up. They even made up trust symbols further on, money back guarantee. Now, one could argue you see that all the time, but that is a trust symbol. So is the Norton shopping, down here. Those are trust symbols. So if you look at this and I get here and I land on this, am I in the right place? Well, sure. But how do I feel about it? There is a ton of trust on here. So I'm going to feel a lot better about this with those trust symbols than I would without the trust symbols, right? So again, am I in the right place? What am I supposed to do here? I'm sorry, am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? This matches all of those. So I've given you 4 things that you could try right now after this webinar to go figure out, can these make a difference for you? All right. And if you're not sure how to apply those 3 questions to your website, then you got a couple choices here. You can schedule a call with SiteTuners, and in 30 minutes, we'll look at your website and answer, does it answer the 3 questions or not? And if you go to sitetuners.com, and you could go to /schedule call, or just go to sitetuners.com. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see Speak with a Conversion Expert, right? And we just make it real simple. And if you want us to look at your site from an outside perspective, we can do that. Or if you want, you could buy the book. It's available as of about a week ago. So it's brand new, hot off the presses on lulu.com. It'll be available on Amazon in about 6 more weeks. There's a process involved. But if you're interested in either scheduling a call or buying the book, I'd invite you to do that. And so with that in mind, I'm going to leave this up for a moment and let me ask the following. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the question area, or you could put them in the chat, and I'm happy to stay on board and answer a question or 2.
Thank you so much, Marty.
You're most welcome.
It's just always a pleasure to hear you speak and to hear your latest thoughts on things. I certainly have plenty of questions, but I want to open it up for the audience. So if anybody does have any questions, by all means, do throw those into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll tee those up for Marty. Someone is asking is there a recording of the session? Yes, we are recording this, and we'll send it out to everybody who registered. So you will receive a link to the recording if you want to run through that and pick up some of these insights again, or reference some of the specific examples. I want to go back to a couple of things that you talked about, Marty. One in particular resonated with me. You mentioned just having or displaying a phone number on the page is one of the best trust symbol exercises that you can do. Can you expand on that a little bit, and how big of a difference have you seen that actually make?
Sure. So we've actually tested this across a number of countries even. So this works, as far as we can tell, everywhere. And real companies have a phone number in the top right-hand corner. And if it's on mobile, you don't have to have the phone number displayed, but you have to have the click the call icon up on the top. Either works. Okay. So the same things that I talked about here on desktop also work on mobile. There's some slight differences, but it's the same concepts. All right. So the phone number in the top right. So real companies have it up there. And even if you don't man your phone, 24/7, you can put Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern time or Mountain time or wherever you are. It's okay. And if you never really want to take a phone number and because a phone call, because we've actually had clients with that, they said, well, we don't want to talk to these people, as crazy as that sounds to me. By having a really good voicemail system up there where you're providing lots of love and lots of value to people when they get to the recording, and hopefully not completely frustrating them, it still increases the conversion rate. And so, and it lowers the bounce rate. So what we've seen in general is that you can lower the bounce rate with a phone number that pops off the page anywhere from 5 to 10%. Okay.
Wow.
And it depends. Now, there's some other caveats. If your site is you know, god awful, I mean, nothing you do is going to, you know, fix it, right? But assuming you don't have a crazy site, you're going to be in good shape. And then having that phone number, when we've done tests with the phone number, we've actually seen, you know, somewhere between 8 to 10%, you know, increase in conversion rates. Not increase in calls, crazy as it sounds. Yeah, you'll get some more calls, but it absolutely increases the conversion rates. It's on every page and people feel comfortable, all right? And if you don't want to put it on every page for whatever reason, please, 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 please have the phone number near your conversion action. So if you've got a cart in e-commerce, make sure there's a phone number that they can call. If they're filling out a form, let them call you instead. You know, if you're doing a subscription, again, there's a similar kind of cart issue, put a phone number there. You know, having it throughout the entire site matters, but if you really just, for whatever reason, I can't imagine what it is, don't want to have it there, please at least put it by the conversion call to actions. Lance, I answer your question, buddy?
Yeah, thank you. You know, and I'm fascinated by the kind of the user psychology involved there, in that, you know, it's just the presence of the phone number that contributes to increased conversion, not the fact that people are utilizing that as their conversion mechanism.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, you will get phone calls, but it makes you feel safe. Real companies have a phone number, you know, and they didn't make me hunt for it, and I feel safe. If I feel safe, I'm more likely to convert.
Yeah, goes back to your question there. Okay, how do I feel about this site? So a phone number reassures about safety.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Um, Maybe a bit more of a meta question for you here, but you know, if I'm running an organization and I just I know that there's upside potential for me to increase conversion rates, and I want to hire someone, you know, on my team, to help work on that. Um, how do you go about identifying the right type of person? Because, you know, my sense is that you can hire based on skills and experience, but there is I view that as separate from kind of the talent and the art of conversion rate optimization. And how do you think about weighting kind of the art and the science, I guess, of what you do when you're hiring, and how would you advise others to think about that?
Well, it's interesting you talk about the art and the science. So on the art side, it's really about interpersonal skills. All right. If you've got somebody who listens more than they talk, um, you know, somebody told me a long time ago, and with the understand, I don't mean to sound overly religious, but somebody told me a long time ago, God gave you 2 ears and one mouth, use them in that ratio. All right. That really works. If you've got somebody who listens as opposed to talks all the time, then they're more likely to want to engage with people. So you want people who are not just critical thinkers, but critical listeners. They actively listen when you talk, all right, or when someone talks. So that's the art side. You're looking for that kind of personality, somebody who wants to be of service, somebody who wants to listen. On the science side, you're looking for somebody who really loves the numbers, somebody who's going to take that service mentality and that active listening and then measure the results of it. You really need somebody who's going to tell you that that, you know, here's what I've done and it increased X, Y, or Z by this percentage. Here's the thought process I went through it. Now there's a caveat with that. Here's the one last caveat, and I've had this. If somebody says to you, I did this design and it won an award for beautiful web design, or I did this and it won it was in Advertising Weekly as a great ad, or I've done this and I got these kudos, all right, run from that person. Okay. It's not about how beautiful the thing is. It's about, did it actually impact the business in a positive way? And when people talk to you, about what they've done, it better be about business impact and not how they got kudos. So,
Mm-hmm. Less about awards. I tend to agree with you there. I don't go much in for awards myself. Um, um, we've got a question from an audience member. Says, do you recommend A/B testing to validate site changes, and if so, to what extent? My temptation is to go crazy with it. Thank you very much for all the helpful info today. I'm ready to hire you. There you go. All right.
great. So,
So,
yeah.
what do you think? A/B testing, and how crazy do you go?
Well, there's certain things. I mean, it comes to experience. So if you don't have a ton of experience, then you need to test everything, right? If you do have a ton of experience, so for example, we can look at a site and we can tell, and we this is what we tell our clients. If they don't have a phone number in the top right-hand corner, we tell them just put it up there. If they have rotating banners, we can tell them to get rid of it, and here's what you put instead. And if you got, because we know, having tested on site after site after site and page after page, we know it's going to work, right? Because we've got that experience. But if you don't have that experience, then you have to A/B test everything. And I will tell you, even with the experience we have, we do a lot of A/B testing too. Well, I say A/B testing. It could be split testing. There's all sorts of. We're big proponents of testing in general. Okay, and I would strongly recommend it. And so for us, we look at things when we know it's going to work. We'll tell you. When we're not 100% sure, 99% sure, then we're going to want to test it. So for those of you who are on this call who maybe haven't done or looked at literally thousands of pages, web pages, with a critical eye, you really should be testing kind of everything. Now, having said that, you can put the phone number in the top right-hand corner. You can lower your form fields. The things that I put up there today, you can measure the results of it without necessarily testing, but please at least measure it. So Lance, we're kind of at the end of our hour here. I don't want to, be rude and keep people, but at the same time, if there's another question, great. But I want to be respectful of people's time too.
Yeah, I'm with you. So let's go ahead and plan to end on time here at the top of the hour. But before we go, Marty, again, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom with us, and in your humor. It's something I've always appreciated with you as well. Thank you. And again, for anybody that is interested in hiring Marty and Site Tuners, I just can't recommend them highly enough. One of the godfathers of web usability did this study years ago where they tried to correlate business performance with different usability metrics. And the one thing that he found there was a correlation on was what he called exposure ratio. And it's the degree to which the organization actually spent time exposed to the client, their customer's experience on their website. Were they watching videos of people struggling with the website? Were they actually conducting usability tests and so on? And what I find fascinating about Marty and Site Tuners is that you can go run all these studies on your own, and it can be a lot of time and effort and a ton of money to do that. Or you can talk with Marty for a half hour and you can largely generate a lot of the same insights. So I view Marty and Site Tuners as kind of this great secret weapon way for you to just jump up that learning curve immediately and generate meaningful insights on the things that are going to make the biggest impact for increasing your conversion rates.
Well, thank you, Lance, and thank everyone for joining us today too.
Thanks all for coming, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.